I thought I was done with all of this. Done with the shadows, the lies, the missions nobody would ever know about. By 2008, I had traded classified files for coffee shops, reports for silence. I told myself I was retired. But the truth is simple. There are no former agents. The call came late one night. Not a phone call, an envelope slid under my door. No return address, no stamps, just my name in black ink, written by a hand I recognized from years ago. Inside was one line. We need you. Orion. Orion. I hadn't heard that word since the 90s. It wasn't just a code name, it was a warning, a signal that something had slipped out of control. 2 days later, I was walking through the gates of a facility that technically didn't exist. No logos, no uniforms, just men and women with cold eyes and clipped badges. The desert sun burned outside, but underground, it was always winter. They told me people were disappearing, not in alleys or war zones, but from hospitals, clinics, even private labs. Every case looked ordinary on paper. Volunteers for experimental treatments, signing forms they probably never read, but none of them came home. My job? To consult, to lend experience. They said I wouldn't have to get my hands dirty. They lied. I saw the files. Men and women, healthy, vanishing into thin air. The official reports ended there, but the real files, the ones locked behind 4 levels of clearance, painted a darker picture. Their blood work changed. Their brain scans showed patterns no doctor could explain. Some of them have been spotted months later, alive, but different. One photo still haunts me. A man I recognized from my training days in Arizona, 2010. His eyes glowed faintly under the fluorescent light, like a predator caught in the dark. He shouldn't have been there. He was supposed to be dead. That was my welcome back. No briefing, no warm handshakes, just the knowledge that something we thought was under control had slipped the leash. And here's the part nobody writes down in the official reports. When I entered that facility, I smelled something familiar. Ozone, burnt metal. The same scent I remembered from sites where aircraft had crashed without wings, without engines, without explanation. I realized then I hadn't been called back for my advice. I had been called back because they knew what I had already seen. My name is Kevin. I was an agent once. And if you're hearing this, understand. The past never stays buried, especially when it comes from above. I was not brought back to solve a mystery. I was brought back because they already knew the answers, and they needed someone who could live with the truth. The facility sat under miles of desert stone. No windows, no clocks. Time was measured by the hum of machines and the buzz of fluorescent lights. I was escorted through hallways that curved like mazes, past doors sealed with biometric locks. They called it a medical wing. That was a lie. Inside those rooms were not patients, they were subjects. Men and women strapped to steel chairs, their veins glowing faintly under the skin. Their eyes flickered like they were staring at something none of us could see. Machines fed them fluids that pulsed with an unnatural light, too steady, too perfect to be anything we built. The lead doctor told me the program was about resilience, enhancing human biology for space travel, stronger lungs, faster reflexes, memory that could hold entire maps of foreign terrain. On the surface, it sounded like the old stories of super soldiers, but then I listened closer. Some of the subjects whispered in their sleep, phrases in no language I knew, sounds more harmonic than human. One woman repeated the same words every night. It's waiting above the clouds. I asked where the technology came from. The doctor's smile didn't reach his eyes. Recovered material, he said. Recovered, not invented. I had seen recovered material before. Craft with no engines, metal that bent like cloth but couldn't be cut, Signals that never stopped broadcasting even after the source was destroyed. We were not building these experiments from scratch. We were reverse engineering something that never belonged to us. The more I saw, the more I realized this wasn't about preparing humans for space. This was about preparing humans for contact. One night I walked past a glass chamber and froze. Inside was a boy, maybe 15. His head shaved, electrodes on his skin. His eyes opened as I passed. They glowed silver, just for a second. He pressed his palm against the glass and whispered. I couldn't hear the word, but I felt it, like it echoed inside my chest. Fear, hope, both at once. That was when I broke protocol. I pulled the files I wasn't supposed to see, and what I found made me wish I had never come back. Photos of wreckage buried in ice, stamped 2003. Reports of a silent crash off the coast in 2011, hushed up as a meteor strike. Witnesses who disappeared. Each file ended the same way. Biological recovery successful. Recovery. Not debris, not equipment, biological. They weren't experimenting on random volunteers. They were testing a merger. Human DNA rewritten with sequences we barely understood. Not curing, not enhancing, rebuilding. When I asked how far they had taken it, the director gave me the only honest answer I ever heard in that place. Far enough that we can't turn back. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't science. It was surrender. By 2019, I was no longer just a consultant. I was a witness, a keeper of secrets so heavy they bent the air around me. And yet I stayed, because walking away meant leaving the truth buried where no one would ever find it. The subjects were changing faster now. Their skin showed patterns under ultraviolet light, lines like circuitry glowing faintly when their emotions spiked. Some of them stopped sleeping altogether. Others claimed they no longer needed to eat. And then came the launch. They told the world it was a weather satellite, a quiet mission, nothing to see. But I knew better. The shuttle wasn't carrying instruments. It was carrying them. The hybrids, the first generation of what Orion had built. I stood in the control room as the countdown ended. The ground shook, the engines roared, and for a moment I felt the same pride I used to feel in the old days. But the pride didn't last. Minutes after reaching orbit, the comms went strange. Static at first. Then voices. Not human voices. Harmonics, layered tones that made my teeth ache. The subjects responded not with panic, but recognition, like they had been waiting their whole lives to hear it. One of them spoke into the mic, his voice calm, almost serene. They know us. They've been waiting. Then the feed went dark. Hours later, the shuttle re-entered Earth's atmosphere. It landed without incident, but half the crew was gone. No distress calls, no explanation, just gone. The survivors looked the same, almost. But when I looked into their eyes, I knew. The silver gleam was there, faint but unmistakable. They weren't fully ours anymore. The director called it a success. Contact achieved, like he'd won a game no one else knew we were playing. The brass cheered, funding doubled, the program expanded. But I couldn't cheer. Because I saw what came back, and I saw what didn't. I started noticing things in the outside world, too. People in crowds whose eyes flashed silver under certain lights. Strangers who seemed to recognize me before I even spoke. Patterns in broadcasts, hidden tones that weren't meant for human ears. The program wasn't contained anymore. It had leaked into the world. Maybe by accident, maybe by design. Now, in 2025, I sit here recording this not as a retired agent, not even as a consultant, but as a man who knows too much. I don't know if I'll be alive tomorrow. Maybe I'll disappear like the others. Maybe you'll see me in a photo one day, eyes glowing under a streetlight. My name is Kevin. I was an agent once. And if you are hearing this, understand,
Humanity is not preparing to meet what's out there. Humanity is already being rewritten to join it. End of testimony.